So you were to walk in right now and you're dealing with this, and your goal is to set up a new kind of culture in not just any not just like the Chicago sports franchise, but like just in a sports franchise. Like how do you go in? I mean, this was your job, so I imagine you have some idea.
Well, I mean, that's the tough part is when you get older, there's a lot more independence, right? And so to be able to change a culture like that, it's I mean, to change any culture, it's relational. And I probably that'll be probably the term I use the most tonight, because it drives all of my practice. For those that did not see the other episode, I am currently a student taking my clinical master's in clinical social work. And
the last episode you had already.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say masters. You got to be close now, but please continue.
I'm almost finished. Yeah, be done end of the year, and then I get a couple more letters. Pay a lot of money for some very poor letters. Fancy letters. But going on anyways. So my work's very relational, and that's what you have to do in these. To change a culture, you have to change the relationship. You have to change everyone's relationship with that idea, with that premise. And so, I would be looking at that team building. I would be looking at that strength building because now fill me in. It was a sex tape that was leaked, or what? It was a sexual assault. But what exactly is? Because that's such a broad thing.
One of the players at the time, he was sexually assaulted. I don't know the full details.
By a teammate or by
a member of the coaching staff.
Okay.
And he was threatened that if he told anyone that he would lose his position on the NHL team. And then during their run to the Stanley Cup during the playoffs, he then brought it forward to the general manager at the time and the coaching staff. And so the entire team knew, and the coaching staff knew, and they told him to keep quiet about it till after the playoffs, and then nothing came.
Okay,
that's was the best time to say something, because it's like when they needed him the most is when you should have leveraged that fact.
Well, I think he was a rookie, so that's why he had no real leverage.
Yeah, there's no ethically speaking, the players. Maybe they had a role, but I feel not so much. The coach, if that is your job, if you are being paid to look out for, this is your team.
Yeah, that's a standard.
Fire all those fucking asses.
Yeah,
they are useless.
Absolutely.
That is completely irresponsible. It's unethical. Perfect. Because that's that stem. You gotta. It's a power relationship. That power dynamic.
A clear standard you gotta have.
Exactly. It's no different than parent-child or right, worker-boss. That is a responsibility, and if you can't be responsible, you're getting paid a lot of money to be responsible, and that's that culture. It's that they're looking at not the people, they're looking at themselves. They're looking at the money. They're looking at that power piece, that control piece, because to sexually assault another person,
a hockey player,
a hockey player,
a fucking hockey player,
it's
and then be like, don't say anything about it.
Well, and that's absolute power.
Crazy.
Yeah,
and what that often shows is that person did that because they themselves, and there's a very, very high chance that they themselves have had that happen to them. And again, going back to those relationships and that attachment piece, right, of whatever happened in their past has impacted them in such a way to create this kind of idea, to create the initial even concept that what I'm doing is okay, right? Because no one's going to do that saying, hey, this is bad. You don't do something because you're like that. You do it because you're able to justify it. And so why are they able to justify? That's that question. And then oftentimes it's because their experience, because of that culture, because this is the culture they were experiencing. And just as C4 pointed at the beginning with the church, right? Starting young, this is that, and I'm gonna say probably a big chunk of those priests and stuff that were sexually assaulting and stuff, they probably were also in that same position when they were choir boys, or
Probably.
you know. And now, does that mean that what they did was okay? Absolutely not. You know, but it does point to a sign of we need to start doing something about this system. And if I, again, to go back to your hockey one, if I were to go in there, it would be about building a relationship both with the coaching staff. Like, I want to build that team up into that when something happens to their teammate, they're going to speak up, that they're going to have the confidence to speak up. Because that's the thing. There was a threat of, well, I don't want to lose this. My parents have spent thousands of dollars on me to be in this position. If I say something, I let them go.
Back, right?
Yeah,
and like they weren't there for him.
So to expand on that, would you want someone of your caliber, or at least of your knowledge base, to be on every kind of sports team? Would you want someone like you on every sports team, or would you want maybe a program in place?
I think the idea would be either, I would say program on the sports team would be great, but I mean, possibly not necessary. The goal, I always say my goal in life is to become jobless. That's my life goal, is to work myself out of a job, you know? And but the sad reality is that's probably not going to happen. However, so in the ideal world, you wouldn't even need me in that role, because that would have been dealt with as children. That would have been, I would like to see, I would be more concerned, and I would like to see that money go to increasing my role in the schools, increasing that social emotional learning, that schools are about relationship and building, and that, you know, when we think about how many people went to university like several years after graduating, right? They took a break, or they worked and did something else, right? The idea, this concept that you need to go from kindergarten to grade 12 and then straight to university and then get a good job is obsolete. It doesn't exist in our society.
And that's even more pressure when you want to go into professional sport. When you're basketball, baseball, absolutely. NHL, football, you have to. There is no question. Mm-hmm. You are going straight to university right after high school.
All that, those grades, or that prior like working, because a lot of not every athlete, but a lot of athletes do have issues going through regular school, programs, right? So they need that sports a lot of times to push them through. So they don't have anything else to fall back on.
So they have all this pressure. They go through university and they finally make it to the professional sport. And then they have this old motherfucker who says, "Touch my penis, or you don't, or you get out. You lose your dream, the thing that you've worked like 6 years, 10 years for your whole life to get to."
Yeah,
like
that movie, Horrible Bosses. That's one of those bosses.
God, I forgot that movie existed.
Yeah, right. That was crazy. Like Kevin Spacey. That was definitely one of the.
Yeah, that was also power.
Coaches. Yeah.
Just Kevin Spacey in general, just using his power as a way to manipulate people.
Well, yeah, him in general, but I meant in the movie. But yeah, that's a very.
Oh yeah, in the movie.
I thought it was Jennifer Aniston. That was the one that was doing. Well,
it talks about three. Yeah. She does.
You're talking about the movie. Yeah. I was kind of talking about real life, but
I know you were. I totally agree. But in the movie, Kevin Spacey, he more does a similar thing where he tells the guy he can't go see his grandmother, because if he does, he fires him, and this is the only job he's had. And if he loses this job, he literally has nothing. He has to go back to square one of being a fast food junkie worker if he really needed to. You know. Like he wouldn't be an executive. He wouldn't have an office job. And this guy would literally give him a horrible reference and fuck up his entire future of trying to find another job. It's that same kind of mentality, right? And it's that measure of executives or bosses or people who think that they're in this power and don't hold that. So they had a boss that wasn't good, that didn't hold this standard of integrity, the standard of passion and care for a career, not just a job, just trying to make a paycheck and trying to hold yourself above everybody else.
Is the root of the problem a mob mentality or power, or a power struggle? Because both are two different things. You have a mob mentality.
Power struggle is always going to be an issue, I think.
Mob mentality is created through the power struggle.
That's fair.
Is it though?
So if we look at Foucault, right, and Foucault talks about power, there's power in every relationship and in everything, right? Every person you meet, every relationship you have, there is a power dynamic, and that mob mentality can be built from that power of I feel powerless, but when I'm with people, I feel powerful, and so I'm going to choose the one that. And that mob mentality is you got people backing you up. You feel more powerful. You've got more people behind you. You've got that power to back you up, right? You're going to tell me
you feel more comfortable. You feel more power to do the things that you never thought you could do before, right?
If you went to every person that stormed the Capitol, like let's use that for example, and you went up to them, knocked on their door at their house, and was like, "Hey, let's go storm the Capitol." They're probably going to be like, no fucking way, I'm going to get shot.
Dude, you're crazy,
yeah.
But when they look on the video and they see thousands of people storming the Capitol and some guy in a buffalo hat who looks like he just got back from the Fred Flintstone water,
and they're like, "Oh my god,
I can
storm the Capitol too!
I can storm the Capitol too!"
Exactly, and that's right. It's a confirmation bias. It's a lived experience confirmation bias where it's like they're doing it, so that means I can do it too.
I can do it, yeah. It's that like monkey see, monkey do kind of thing.
Yeah, and that comes with that sense of power, that feeling of
that I can do the thing. I see other people doing the thing. I can do that thing.
Let's move into some harsh reality and say, okay, so we've been able as dumb people sitting here with one person with a master's degree, two people with bachelor's degrees, and the rest.
I have a college graduate.
I'm a college graduate.
We're able to figure out that it's a mix between I know. It's a mix between mob mentality and power struggles. So if the fact that we're able to figure that out, does that mean that humanity's fucked? Because if we could figure it out, I would like to argue that people much smarter than us could figure that out a lot quicker. And if they're able to figure out and nothing's changed,
well, sure. That means let's just do something that gives me less power. We need to. It's a bottom up construct where, and maybe we have gone too far, or there's several different beliefs when it comes to the end of civilization, and I truly believe we are in a state of time, with an amazing period in time where we are going to be watching the end of a civilization. We are going to watch a collapse. Now, whether that's ours or in what capacity, hard to say, but I would argue that capitalism as we know it will collapse, will destroy. It's a self-destructive system. But to go back to what I was saying, there are several ways that civilizations end. You have the runaway train, and this is also looking back to ancient civilizations like the Mayans, the Aztecs. Like I think that might be the same people. But
Mayans
Egyptians
and
like
they're different.
Or are they different? Okay,
that's why they have different names.
I don't feel as smart. Or but the Roman civilizations, right? There was a reason they all suffered or they all collapsed eventually, and I know one of them is the age of it's the runaway train. So it's like when you built all these resources and you've built up, and until there's a point of no going back. Like global warming is that kind of example, right? Where they talk about that tipping point, right? Where you do so much that there's just no matter what you do and realize, there's that point of no return where you're going that way anyways, and you're collapsing and you're heading for it. There's like the House of Cards. So it's once you have all these pieces like stacked together like a house of cards, and then it just takes one of them to fall, and you see an immediate loss. I think one was I could be mistaken, but I believe a big thing for the Aztecs, other than the Spaniards, was and I completely be remembering this wrong, but was a drought that killed quite a bit of crops, and then you had a loss of crops. Then you weren't able to sustain it for anymore. You didn't have much food, and then that created a toppling effect, right? Where then it impacted the entire civilization.
The French Revolution started with a woman who was too poor to eat bread, and she wanted to walk to the Palace of Versailles and say that she was mad. And all of a sudden, a bunch of other women joined her, and next thing that she knew, half of Paris joined her.
Yeah,
like that's a true story. That's how it started. Was one angry woman.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, and that's that piece. Is that sometimes that's all it takes to like the match.
So you think we're at the end?
That's kind of like the straw that breaks the camel back, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So you think we're at the end of a civilization?
I think we're teetering, personally.
Yes, I do see, and I see it specifically the end of.
Didn't we prove Plato right? Didn't Plato say democracy was the worst form of government because eventually people would elect an idiot and they elected Trump?
Yeah.
But we don't have democracy, though.
We don't, but I'm talking about like the United States does.
Even them,
that's not democracy. That's not
democracy. It's not true democracy.
They like to yell that it is, but not really.
Are you telling me that wasn't democracy?
It was a form. It's like that's like saying communism in China is Karl Marx's version of communism. They're very different.
Very different.
Like it's not the ideal democracy is not the United States.
No. Not what the original American dream was.
Afterworld Podcast says, I fear it won't end. We will settle into a gentle but terrible dystopia. The majority of society will just become largely desensitized by things like climate, refugees, developing world issues, etc. Civilization will continue to the inhabitable areas, and those inside civilization will turn a blind eye to those outside. Have you ever read We, sir? You need to go read
what it is now, really?
Go read a book called We. I'm going to type it in the chat.
I think Afterworld's podcast is pretty spot on. However, that exactly is a change in civilization because it is a change from the world that we are living in. So you are. I absolutely agree with what you're saying, and it will be the new civilization will just be this one, but without all the good.
Is anyone here not hoping for idiocracy except me? Like.
Only if Terry Crews is president.
Oh my God, it could be, but knowing us, it's going to be Kevin Hart. It's gonna be Kevin Hart. But I want idiocracy. I want to do monster truck rallies for cars.
No, dude. That's where you vote for Kid Rock for president. You want the monster truck rally.
Yeah.
As long as we don't end up with a theocracy.
Oh no, we're past that.
Would be the worst.
Unless we come up with like a new religion.
Too many
Unless there was a D&D, that'd be good.
A D&D
religion. 1,000 years from now, Dungeons and Dragons, the sacred text.
All your decisions are based off the sacred D20 roll.
The sacred text. There's wars between the first and second editionites.
and the crazy cultists of 3.5.
One day we shall find a copy of the 5th edition. The 5th edition's it's just a rumor. No one's ever heard of it. And one day they find a copy like Book of Eli, the 5th edition. Oh, it does exist.
Oh, our ancestors told us about it once.
Yes, Afterworld Podcast, roll for salvation.
Yeah, I'm actually going to lead the world into this D20 society.
Charge.
Yeah. Kane will be the president, the leader of the D&D.
Can we have that as our new saying? Roll for salvation. Can I take that Afterworld Podcast? That's so good.
That's your next one shot, right?
Yeah.
Roll for salvation.
I got one of my next one shot's going to be an apocalypse. So wait for that one. We will be rolling for salvation. Let me tell you.
I would like to be a part of that and play a barbarian named Terry Crews.
You very much can.
Well, if you're not busy after, we do the elusive Tavern Tales right after this. If you want to stick around for that,
Get a double dose of this.
Yep, we double dip.
We do.
Days now.
Well, when you dip, I dip with it.
That's not the way I thought that was going to go, but I'm happy.
I think that's how that.
I'm pleased with the results.
Honestly, I thought it was going to be more. I don't usually dip. What I do, it's double dip. Because for me, that's what I had immediately thought.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
I just thought of that.
Can we take it in so many really bad ways? Insaniac.
Oh, that's the point.
Just the Dos Ex commercial with you sitting there. I don't always dip, but when I do, I double dip.
That's like an ice cream cone called double dip.
Now that we've enjoyed this really, really thought-provoking conversation, to go on this dip piece, I want you to think of. Remember Fun Dips?
Yeah.
The Fun Dip. It's like the it's a little can, like the chopped stick, and you dip it in just sugar.
You mean Dunkaroos?
I can feel.
No, Fun Dips.
No, Fun Dip.
Fun Dip is sugar candy.
It was a candy
sugar?
stick, and you would suck on the candy stick and dip it in powdered sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still around. I saw one.
Was this for kids?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was a thing that you get.
I still have them. It's by Lickamade.
I used to listen
a stick or something now, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, they're still called for Fun Dips.
I used to watch a YouTuber who would snort this shit. It was actually kind of funny,
but
not good. Wouldn't
Yeah,
recommend
again, last week I had to tell someone not to do that.
It's because it's a YouTube thing.
Smoking sugar?
No, snorting.
Yeah, snorting.
Yeah.
Snorting the Fun Dip sugar. Yeah.
My friends
Or
used to
like
crush
pixie
the
stick
rocks
sugar.
and
They're like,
pretend
I want
they're
to do this,
smoking.
and then I was like, dude, it's gonna hurt, and he's like, yeah.
It's
There
gonna
you go.
hurt.
Turn
Don't
the-
do
All
that.
right. I'm gonna end.
I grew
the
up with
stream
people
on
watching
this,
me doing
on this
this sort of
story.
thing.
First time I ever seen anyone snort anything in my life. I'm in math class, grade 10. I will always remember this. Back to class.
I hope it was a pixie stick.
There's this girl, and she's sitting there, and she's all of a sudden pulls out like a bottle of Tylenol. And I'm like, okay, she must have a headache. Right beside me, she looks around, looks at me, pulls out like 2 pills, and then looks around, and once the math teacher leaves, just crushes them. And I'm like, the fuck you doing? And she just looks at me, she's like, meh. And then she rolls up a $5 bill and fucking snorts the Tylenol. Right in the middle of math class. And I'm like,
Wow.
Welcome to high school, Jonathan. Wow. Oh, fuck. I don't know what to say to that.
I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that, ever.
I had never done drugs in my life at that point. I'd only, drank a little, but, man.
That's a weird way to do drugs, even for someone who does do drugs.
That was the first 2 weeks of high school, too. I also remember, never forget that. Fucking Tylenol.
That's so weird. That's so fucking weird.
Are you sure it was Tylenol and not Advil?
No, it was totally Tylenol. It's totally Tylenol. And then now hearing about pixie sticks, I mean, kids will snort anything.
Dude, I knew a kid. I watched kids. They would put the whole pixie stick and try to kids are stupid and crazy, dude. It's bad, dude.
Afterworld podcast. Not gonna lie, when I was young, I used to rail ephedrine out of Yellow Jack. Okay, well who didn't rail Dexedrine and Ritalin when they were a kid? I mean, how else do you finish all those essays you have to? But I don't know. Yeah. I'm not speaking from experience. I am not experienced. No.
Those are the hands up of
a guilty man. Pure deniability right here.
Those are the hands up of a
pure deniability.
Only a guilty man raises his hands that way.
What?
As he puts his hands way up.
On that note, I would like to thank Darth Mullet for coming on for a second time and putting up with us again. It is always fun having you on. And you're going to have your master soon.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be great.
I'm going to keep talking shit.
If you are still, we are going to now start the elusive Tavern Tales. But if you are listening,
thanks to Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout is a wonderful streaming service.
I'd say just do your sign off. We'll take a 5-minute, and then we'll jump into the chaos.
I was good. If you are listening on the podcast, then if you wish to watch the elusive Tavern Tales or watch them live, we do them Wednesday nights, or they'll be on the YouTube. Otherwise, if you are listening to the podcast, thank you for joining us. And I'm sorry you had nothing better to do. I'm glad you spent it with us here.
You.
And Darth Mullet. Below me is Insanieac. Beside me is Sara, Vike. Down there is the Great Grease Goblin. In the Ethers, the Great is Elusive Government. And with us is Darth Mullet. And we are the Villains of the Villains Talk Show and Podcast. And we will catch anyone who's listening on the podcast next time.
Check out the social media stuff, become minions today. We appreciate you all. Bye.